Hi everyone, this is Jack Tabor and this is ENG102 Online, and today is just sort of an introductory say hello video podcast to say hello and give you some vital information, talk a little bit about the course, and then we'll move on. Okay, so the first thing is, indeed, you have just enrolled into English 102. This is the online class. In every way, it's just like the face-to-face, only that it's online and it requires a great deal of your input into the class to make it work. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same course. Dr. Tabor, that's my name, T-A-B-O-R. The best way to reach me is at email, taborj@mccc.edu. I have a telephone. It's on my desk. There's a voicemail. You call it. You'll probably get, you might get me. You might get my voicemail. There it is, 609-570-3838. But honestly, like you, I'm also an electronic person. I'm living out here in the virtual world too. Email is really the best way to reach me, especially with this class, because like you, you're taking it online, I'm teaching it online. So if you have any questions in terms of the course, anything at all, there's no stupid questions, is to send an email to me right there. Couple things I want to just talk about in terms of the class itself. The thing I said at the beginning about your involvement in the class, the content's the same. Everything you're doing here, like your colleagues that are taking English 102 face-to-face in a regular traditional classroom, you're writing the same number of papers, you're doing the same number of projects and so on. The only critical difference with the online class is it really does require you to take a little special effort to be sure you read a lot of the instructions and text. It's a really text-heavy kind of instruction. I try to loosen that load, lighten that load, lighten the load by adding things like this podcast and these audio components to it, where things that are a little bit more complicated and I think necessitate a sort of lecture, I put podcasts and video podcasts in there. But a great deal of the material will be to you. It'll be instructional. It'll give you things like, it'll say, write, read, respond, post, add, drop something to the Dropbox. So please, I want to just emphasize, read the instructions. Be sure you understand everything. If there's something that I have in the course that isn't clear to you, or you have a question, again, email me. Send me an email, ask a question, let me help you figure it out. And we can also always talk on the phone. I actually do live, I'm in the world too, and we can go with that. If it's anything that's technical with the course, the electronic stuff, logging on to the Mercer Online, to the server, problems with your browser, those kinds of things, I'm not very good at that. I'm the educator, I'm not the technician. So you want to talk to the people at Mercer Online and they can help you out, and those numbers I'll follow in a minute. But in terms of the course itself, let me just give you a brief overview. English 102, all English 102s have a theme that you have from the beginning to the end of the course, to which you read and you write and do research for. And in terms of this course, I've chosen the theme, very big theme, America and Americans. And I've taught this class for the last 2 years in the face-to-face class, and it's been really fun to teach, and I think students have really liked it, because all of us are in some way involved with the themes of America and Americans. We're taking a course in New Jersey. We're here in America, and we do have an interface directly with those concepts. And the very first part of the course, the first thing we're going to do in the class is just work on establishing the theme of what do we mean when we say American or America, because there really isn't a established textbook definition of that. And if you ask anyone, we can all have very different definitions of what we think that means. And we get into that in the very, very first part of the class. And there's a paper on it. The next thing we take a look at is just this kind of question about the American dream and what America is like in our current late 20th century, 21st century moment. We look at a number of different sort of texts and so forth. Literature, short stories, poems. We look at advertisements. We do a lot of things that look at our current American culture. The middle part of the course is centered on a whole text, which is Dave Edgar's Zaytoon. It's a novel about Hurricane Katrina. and we read an anthology of poems written by people who survived from Hurricanes Rita and Katrina. And that middle part of the class really asks critically this question of what is the status of America in our very contemporary 21st century moment. And then the last part of the class puts a great deal of the focus on research. And this is the fun part of the class, I think, because the latter part of the course focuses on a very broad research question, which is simply, what will America be like at the end of your lifetime? What will America be like in, say, well, let's move it out a bit. Let's say, what will America be like at the end of the 21st century? Go to time machine ahead. And that's a research project that's given to you to your own interests and your own proclivities. We'll get to this. So ultimately, the class ends up with a great deal of your own investment and engagement with the themes, the materials, and so on that I provide. It also involves you finding materials that help you answer your own critical engagement with the themes of the course. So again, we kind of start in the past. How did we define America traditionally? What is America like right now? What kind of concerns and so forth that we all face? And then ultimately, the latter part of the class takes this sort of trajectory look of where are we going? What will America be like at the end of the 21st century? It's been a really fun course to teach. I've really enjoyed this class, and I think the students have liked it too. And I hope you too also enjoy taking the class. So welcome to English 102.